What to you is like the big cloud that is hanging over this draft where you're like, there's a big question, right? We all know the number one pick is Victor Wembanyama. The Spurs already celebrated at the lottery, so we got that done. But what is the next biggest question in this NBA draft for you?
It's number 2 with the Charlotte Hornets. So
yes.
They're working out on Monday. Multiple reports say Woj had it, Gavoni had it, Jake Fisher had it last week, that they're bringing back Brandon Miller and Scoot Henderson today on Monday for a second workout and interview. Michael Jordan wants to be there, the outgoing owner, but he's still the owner. He wants to be a part of this decision, the final decision he'll make. But then again, maybe they'll find out that they don't actually want either of these guys, with Zion Williamson looming as a possibility, right, or even Brandon Ingram if the Pelicans were to put him on the table. So there's still so much to shake out at number 2 that could determine a lot of these futures here. So really the draft starts at 2, considering Wemby's definitely going 1.
That's always my favorite question going into the draft. When does the draft actually start, right? It's a very funny question, but it's also a question that needs to be asked. And as I have my Muggsy Bogues jersey behind me, I think the Charlotte fans and the Charlotte faithful, despite, what Scoot Henderson or Brandon Miller may be able to bring to the table, there is an enticing idea that is being floated. And I saw our boss, Bill Simmons, put it out there that Zion Williamson, the expectation is that he will be traded by Thursday. If you put your calendars together, Thursday is the NBA draft. So mostly probably going to be tied to a pick in the NBA draft. So if the Pelicans, as reported, love Scoot Henderson so much, does it make sense, if you're even a gambler, does it make sense that even if the Hornets don't want to put Scoot next to LaMelo, it doesn't make sense for them, the fit isn't there, that they would take Scoot under the guys that maybe they can flip Scoot into Zion Williamson? Or am I reading too much between the lines there?
Maybe that could be part of it for sure. I'm intrigued by the report that says the Hornets would rather have Brandon Ingram instead of Zion Williamson. Is this some type of negotiation type of thing going on where they actually want Zion, but they're saying they prefer Ingram? It's unclear right now. I mean, it's only Monday. I'm sure we'll have more clarity Thursday afternoon in the hours leading up to the draft, unless, as Bill Simmons said, the trade happens before then. That's always a possibility too. But so far, it does seem like Portland pretty definitively prefers Zion if they were to move 3. It's just less clear what the Hornets actually want to do at number 2. If it is to be believed, you said it on Beyond the Arc when we recorded after the draft lottery, how you were hearing that Brandon Miller was the preference, but who knows if that was just a smokescreen at the time. And everybody else that's reported since that Miller is the preference over Henderson, maybe this has not been true the entire time. So I think for Charlotte at this point, it is still unclear, which is exactly what you want if you're Mitch Kupchak and Michael Jordan in that spot. You don't want people to know what you're going to do at number 2 when you have all these options on the table for yourself. They could even trade down, not just out for Zion or Ingram. There's so many possibilities for them.
Yeah, right. If a team like the Magic, who has the 6th pick and the 11th pick, decides they want to move up to get a Scoot Henderson or to get a Brandon Miller, you're right, though. Immediately when the lottery happened, right, when the Hornets had the number 2 pick, my sources within the Hornets said, we love Miller. We love the idea of pairing a backcourt with LaMelo, who's 6'7", and Brandon Miller, who's 6'9". They love the length of that backcourt. They love the spot-up shooting of that backcourt. And they like the fact that Brandon Miller can also handle the basketball. I mean, there's been a lot of comps that have been made about Miller, comparing him to Jabari Smith, who ended up going 3 last year. But I think Miller's a better ball handler, and I think he's a better passer and has better vision. But he also had mono, right? So that was the other big story during his workout. There was, some of the reports out of Charlotte was he didn't have the best workout. He wasn't in the best shape, but he also was coming off an injury. He had mono as well. But then they had Scoot Henderson come in. He looks incredible, right? They're like, how do we parse these two things where there's a guy that we assumed that we wanted, we've put out to the world that we've wanted. But then we see this guy in person and, Bill has said Scoot acts like a 28-year-old. It's hard when you deal with someone who is that polished, who has already played so much quote-unquote NBA basketball and looks ready. So that's going to just be a fascinating moment in time when they make that pick. One other name I want to throw out there and get your reaction on. Would you think this would be insane? Or how insane would it be if a team were to trade up to number 2 and take, let's say, Amin Thompson, right? Because that is another name that I have heard as a sort of dark horse guy. And we dealt with this last year with the Magic, where it was like Jabari Smith Jr., Chet Holmgren, right? Who's going to go number 1? And then all of a sudden, as we got closer, it's like, Well, the Magic are going to take Paolo Banchero, right? That was sort of the idea. Is there any world in which Thompson even jumps up in that 2-3 range because he's so physically gifted?
I wouldn't say it's the highest likelihood. Like Paolo Banchero, there was a better chance of it last year when there was all this misdirection going on with Orlando at 1. But at the same time, both Ahmed and his brother, we'll throw Ausar Thompson in there as well. They're both insanely talented.
Him better,
I have
right?
Ausar ahead of. Yeah. I have Ausar one spot ahead of Ahmed, 4 and 5. So it's close between them. It's really a matter of preference and team philosophy and need. But for Charlotte, it does make some sense. For one of those guys, if it's in a trade down at number 2, I think you got to take Scoot or Brandon Miller. But in a trade down scenario, or as a surprise pick at number 3, like if a team does have concerns about Brandon Miller, I think in that top 3 range, it's not unreasonable. I just think with their lack of a jump shot at this point of their career, Scoot is further ahead as a shooter. Brandon Miller is way ahead of all 3 of those guys. Yeah, that's such an important skill. Where with the Thompson twins, it's really about defense, playmaking. You like those skills, but are they going to be more than like high end role players? It's going to come down to the jumper.
Yeah, and also, I mean, the Thompson twins play in the overtime elite, and, you know, they're basically 20 years old and they're playing high schoolers. So watching some of the tape is, you know, incredible, right? You see like a play on tape in the overtime league, and you're saying to yourself, these guys look like grown men against little boys. And then you realize it actually is that. So then trying to forecast what that will be when they're playing against grown men, that's always tough as well.